Hey, what's up everyone, it's your girl Brain Shanae, and today I'm going to be doing a book review for The Spite House by Johnny Compton, and this is his debut. Now, y'all are probably wondering, like, this is not me. This is not the type of book that I read. You don't see a lot of horror on my channel, but I'm trying to change that. I'm trying to read a little bit more horror, more thrillers in my life. I feel like I need it. So I came upon this book, and I saw this and I'm like, this actually looks pretty good. Like, it was the cover mostly that got me. And then I looked more into it. I opened the book and I'm like, this sounds like a book for me. So I loved this book. This is Johnny Compton's debut, like I said before, and I was blown away. Now, mind you, I did also listen to the audio, so I hybrid read it. So if you don't have the book, I highly, highly recommend you at least listen to the audio. It's really, really good. I love I just loved it. It made it feel like you're part of the story. You're just in the background. You're like a wallflower pretty much, and you are seeing everything take place. Now, for this book, it had me all over the place. It was making me try to predict things, but I couldn't do it. Like, it was unpredictable, which I really love in books. I do not like having the ability to predict things happening in a book and then I realize that I was right and then I get let down. This is not the case. Hands down, 5 out of 5. Like, this is a 5-star. Like, if I didn't have any, I would give it so many stars. Like, so many. Because I really, really enjoyed this book. It gave me everything that I wanted, everything that I needed in a horror. And so we're featuring a few characters. We're featuring Eric, who is the main character. We're featuring Des, who is his daughter, Stacy, who is his youngest daughter, and we have Eunice, who is the owner of this house called the Spite House on this hill with creepy trees around it. So we deal with a few characters, different POVs in this book, which I also loved so much. So we're coming across a man named Eric along with his daughters, and they are moving from place to place to place. And you really don't know why. As you read more and more into this book, you start understand, and you soon are being revealed why they move around so much. So they decided to go to, Eric found somewhere where he could get a job, because everywhere they moved, he was always trying to look for a job so that he could take care of his, take care of his daughters, because that was his main priority, to always protect them, always be their protector, always be their provider. And I love that. We don't see a lot of books, especially when it comes to Black fathers doing this. And it's actually a thing. Like, it's, people make the stereotype as Black fathers do not care their kids, and that's not always the case. So I love this representation of the father and taking care of his two daughters. Like, I love that. And so, as I said, he's trying to find a job, and he comes upon this one job where he would have to go to this house called the Spite House, and he would have to stay in there for some odd weeks or whatever. And so he looked into it, and so he got an interview from the people that worked for the owner, and then he got to speak to the owner about, why are you doing this, and yada, yada, yada. And he pretty much told her, like, I'm ready to set roots. I have a family house that I definitely want to go back to and be able to have as my own, because I grew up there. And so this is all located in Texas, mind you. So where they're going to be at is the Spite House, like I said, which is this house, and it's in DeGener, Texas. And what was I saying? Like, this book has you all over the place, and I love it because I love the storyline. I love how it, like, built up to you being scared and spooky and stuff like that. So the owner of this house didn't really give him all the information. She was withholding a lot of stuff. Her name is Eunice, which when you read this, you will see her from time to time, and she just doesn't give him all the information about this house. She doesn't tell him about the other people prior to him being in this house and their experience. Nothing. So he was just looking at it like for the money aspect, like, this will be great. This will help us get on our feet. and my daughters will be good. So mind you, his older daughter, she's 18. and he has a younger daughter. And the oldest daughter, Des, takes care of Stacy whenever Eric, their father, is trying to find a job and trying to make sure that they're safe and protected. So pretty much Des was like a mother figure to Stacy. And like I said, we gradually start to know information about the mother, about the background, or the story prior to them moving a lot, going from place to place to place. And you soon, like I said, how can I say this? It will soon be revealed later on down the line. It's not going to give you every single detail at the very beginning, because that's just a dead giveaway. So it's not going to do that. It's building up to that anticipation. And I kept wondering, what is up with Stacy? Something's up with Stacy. I can't figure it out, but it's something centering Stacy in a sense. And I just could not, I tried to think of every single thing and nothing. And everything that I predicted, like I said, I was completely wrong, and I love that. So he decides to take this job to be at the Spite House. He does tell the owner, Eunice, that he does have 2 daughters, and she was like, oh, that's okay. Now, mind you, prior to them, the people that were in this house prior to Eric applying for this job, we had Max and Jane, who are paranormal researchers. And yes, that's another thing. This house is haunted, which Eunice, like I said, withheld information from Eric to begin with. And so with this couple, they're married, Max and Jane. They were in the house for quite a while, and things became really, really weird and strange, to the point where it seems like they were losing bits and pieces of themselves, not literally, but like their souls, in a sense. And it seemed like the house is just eating them away. And eventually they left, but Max's wife was never the same after they left. And Eunice did not let Eric know about what happened to Max or Jane, And then we learn more information about the Spite House in general, and its background and its history, and why it was called the Spite House to begin with. And I found that, like, the history of it, I don't know, for some reason it reminded me, like, this book was so good. It gave me a good comparison, I think, would be the Good House by Tannery Dew. And yeah, it gave me those vibes. It was creepy. But it's completely different, but the whole eating away somebody's soul part is sort of gave me that type of feel, that type of vibe in a sense. But we learned the history about this house had me going all over the place. It made me mad. It made me sad, because it's going back in the time of during the the Civil War. And how, this is in Texas, so, they were Confederate, they're part of the Confederacy. And you had these Union soldiers and the abolitionists came there saying they weren't fighting in the war, they just come here for peace. But, they didn't get peace in return. I'm not going to say too much. You got to read this book. It makes a lot of sense as to why things are happening at this house, and particularly, and all these creepy trees around it. I'm not trying to give you types of spoilers. I'm just giving you the gist of what this book is about, because it has you guessing, and you can never get the right answer that you're looking for. And then we have more things being revealed about Stacy, and how her experience is sort of adding up to what Max wants Stacy. So it's really interesting with everything that's happening. It's talking about death and how sometimes it's not always final. It talks about people being spiteful, how your anger can produce so much power and you just don't realize it, and how much your anger and your spite can consume you and the well-being of your family and and where you live. It all consumes you, and it takes a toll on you, and then and it eats away your soul. It eats away at you with your guilt and everything, and the pain that you went through and are going through. It's just this book where it makes you think about so many things. I love the idea of how in this book, not the idea, but the whole point of how in this book there is a moment where they discuss things that happened with, before Eric, Des, and Stacy were moving around from town to town and state to state. How your marriage or the relationship you're someone, you know, the person that you have a relationship with, and you have children with that person, and you start to break apart and you start to yell at each other and blame each other. Like, kids see that, and that really affects them mentally. I've experienced that in my household when I was growing up. It was not healthy, and it took a toll on me, and my parents just did not realize it. So when you yell and argue in front of a child or in front of your own children, niece, nephew, whoever it may be, your grandchild, whoever, it does affect them. And I like the fact that it talks about that as well in this book. It brings up that awareness of how everything that you do in front of a child, it does affect them. And I really wish my parents knew that. I know they were going through their own things because they were consumed in their relationship and didn't realize all the actions and stuff that they were doing and saying. It was all there. It seems like it was coming on me, you know, like they were neglecting me, not noticing how it's making me feel, the actions they put towards one another. It affects you. And I do like that, how it explains that in that light, in that perspective. I find that very, very powerful, because I think some people, like even parents, you know, you don't realize it. Like, your kids are observant, so observant. They see everything and anything, you know. And sometimes as we're no longer kids anymore and we're parents, we're sort of blinded by that. So like I said, I love that aspect of this book as well. I think that's very, very great to, you know, have in this book, you know. I like that. I like the representation of how this book and how the story is intertwined, but it breaks down certain parts of reality in people's lives, and you know, how you can prevent all those things down the line, so that you don't have any regrets and stuff, you know. And like I said, I love the father figure. I loved Eric. I found him as just a great father, trying to take care of his kids. And it was just an all around well-written book. Johnny, if you are watching this, which if you are, that's amazing. Like, it's an honor. But Johnny Compton, and this was his debut, like, amazing. And you can't, you know, when a debut author does this great with a book, I gotta give them a round of applause, because it was an awesome book. It kept you on your toes. It was never a dull moment. You're always finding out something in each and every chapter, and it's just like anticipation. It's just keeping you going and going. You're like, okay, what's going on? What's this? What's that? Okay, something has to happen. What's happening now? Like, wait, what happened to her? Like, why is this house doing this? So I loved it. And now I have an understanding of Johnny and his background. So it says, Johnny Compton's short stories have appeared in Strange Horizons, the No Sleep podcast, and many other outlets. He is a Horror Writers Association member and creator and host of the podcast Healthy Fears. And I did not know anything about Johnny Compton until I saw this book. And like I said, it was mostly the cover that got me, and then I started to look into it and just loved the synopsis alone. So if you haven't picked this book up, I suggest you do so. It's a fast read. Now, mind you, it's not that big, but it keeps you on your toes. And like I said, it builds up that anticipation, and it is I was listening to this as I was working, and it was during the nighttime, and my husband popped up popped up out of nowhere, and I screamed. Because this book is so creepy, especially if you listen to it on audio. I promise you, it will get you in that moment like you're watching like a scary movie. It has those type of vibes, which I loved and I expected when it came to reading this. But like I said, if you haven't read this, I suggest you pick it up. I highly recommend this book, especially if you like horror books. Like, this book is definitely for you. And like I said, it has a lot of different aspects in this book. I mean, there's also some things where they deal with racism, because they're also in Texas. So, I mean, it gives you all those things. It doesn't sugarcoat anything. A lot of this stuff is actually some real type of deal, because there's a lot of houses that are haunted. So a lot of this can, is real life type of things. Hauntings, that's some real stuff. So I love the accuracy of it all as well. But like I said, I hope you pick the book up because it's amazing. I love this book, and I definitely will be keeping this. I loved it. You can see I tabbed it up. I didn't tab it as much as I wanted to, but I just tabbed it up because I liked other things. I liked how when it talks about missing like Black children and, just Black people in general, it mentions that just a little bit of how that's a problem, and how like it gets more in depth up to how when they were moving from place to place, people would miss them. People wouldn't do a missing persons report because they're Black. So that's an issue in the US today. So like I said, it gives you like little things that are actually really happening, especially in the US. And when Black people are missing, no one cares. It mentions that. It mentions the racism that you will experience, that people experience on a regular basis. Like I said, it mentions that father and daughter dynamic. It mentions haunted houses. It mentions history and how things will come back with a vengeance and stuff like that. So like I said, I love this book and I highly recommend it. But like I said, I didn't want to give you too many spoilery things. I want you to read this for yourself. There's huge reveals here and there that I think everybody will enjoy. But once again, I really hope you enjoyed this video and this review. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Also hit that subscribe button and that bell to be notified when I upload more videos in the future. But thank you all for watching, and I hope everyone is staying healthy and staying safe. See ya.